In a previous video, whenever I introduced the idea of the ratio of two sides of a right triangle, we talked about the sine function and how that was the ratio of the opposite side from an angle to the hypotenuse. So whenever we have a right triangle and we're given an angle to look at, it's a right triangle, we're given an angle and say we're wanting to find out something about one of these sides. We have to be able to identify which of the sides we're talking about because there are two other trig functions that are going to come in here. We've got the sine, which is opposite and hypotenuse, and then we've got the cosine function, which is equal to the ratio of the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And the last one deals with the two that are still left over, is equal to the opposite over the adjacent side, and this is the tangent function. So we need to be able to identify which of these three trig functions we're actually going to be using. So what we're going to do is we're going to label our sides first. The easiest way to do this is to start with the hypotenuse. We already know that the hypotenuse is the side that's across from our 90-degree angle. So we've got one of them down. Now we've got the two legs. We need to decide which one of them is the opposite side, or the opposite leg, and which one of them is the adjacent side. So it's going to totally depend on which of the angles we're looking at. If we're looking at this angle, the side that is opposite this angle, or across from this angle, would be this side. Now you can see that if we had decided to look for this angle instead of this angle, then the opposite side would actually be over here instead of over here. Now that we've got two of the sides down, there's only one option left, and that's the adjacent side. You could have started with adjacent instead of opposite. It doesn't really matter. The adjacent side is the one that is touching the angle. It's next to it. That's what adjacent means, next to. So once we've identified three sides of our triangle based on the angle that we're wanting to deal with, then we can decide on which of the trig functions is going to be useful in solving our problem. Let's say we had a right triangle that looks like this. This is the angle that we're dealing with, and I give that this is x and this is 12. And let's say that I wanted to find this this side here. Let's just give an angle here so we've got something to talk about. Let's say it's 10 degrees. So I'm dealing with this 10-degree angle, and I want to find out what x is. So the first step here is to identify the three sides. I know I've got two legs and the hypotenuse. So let's go ahead and find the hypotenuse first. The hypotenuse is the one that's over here across from the 90-degree angle. So that one's pretty easy. The opposite side is the one that's across from the angle that we're dealing with. So that's this one over here. This is our opposite side. And then the adjacent side is the one that's left over, or the one that is touching our angle. All right, so then we've got to figure out which of the two sides are involved in this problem. In this case, we're dealing with the opposite and the adjacent. So if we look back up here to see which of our trig functions we're going to use, tangent uses the opposite side and the adjacent side. So that means that tangent is the trig function we're going to use here to find the ratio between these two sides. The way that we do that, just like when we had sine, we put an angle into that function, we do the same thing with tangent and with cosine. So what we've got is that the tangent of 10 degrees is equal to exactly what it says here, the opposite length over the adjacent length. So all we need to do is write those down. Now opposite is x, so that's actually what we're looking for. So we'll put x over the adjacent side. Adjacent is 12, so that's what goes here. All right, so now we're dealing with some algebra here. We want to know how do we isolate x. So in order to isolate x here, we have to do the opposite of the operation that's being performed. In this case, the operation that's being performed is dividing by 12. The opposite of dividing by 12 is going to be multiplying by 12. So I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by 12. So I get that 12 times the tangent of 10 degrees is equal to x. I can just put that into my calculator to figure out what it gives me. And 12 times the tangent of x, or sorry, times tangent of 10 is going to be about 2.12. So this means that 2.12 is approximately what x is equal to. So the length of this side over here is 2.12. Now I'm not going to answer this question, but I want you to think about it. How would I find the hypotenuse? Now, there's more than one way to do it. Actually, given the information that's on here, I can think of 3 pretty easy ways to do it. And don't forget the Pythagorean theorem that we talked about before. So like I said, I'm not going to answer this one, but I want you to try it. See if you can figure out what the hypotenuse is. And don't stop at just doing it one way. See if you can do it all 3 ways that I was talking about.